And we are live. What's up, y'all? Couple people in the chat. I'm going to get started right away because I've got a time crunch here. I got some things that I got to go and do. Thanks for pulling up to Talk Nets with me, host of Talking Nets, Keith McPherson. No surprise there. Also, no guest today. We've got 5 voicemails to play. We've got a lot to talk about, but really not much to talk about because I want to put this behind us. So let's get started. As soon as I'm a minute in, we'll take it from the top. We'll play the intro. Chat is already going. What's up? I see y'all out there. Jared, what up? Let me change this. Let me throw the banner on. Boom. And we'll go from the top, folks. We're a minute in. Let's get it. Talking Nets, episode 160 on the first day of April. It's a Friday. Cheer up, Nets world. The Nets have not handled business. They haven't. We're already in the playoffs, if you can't tell. The last episode I recorded was a week ago, Friday, before I left for Florida, Tampa, vacation, visiting family time. In that time, the Nets went to Miami, beat the Heat. Awesome. Then on the second half of a back-to-back with all the emotion surrounding Kyrie's homecoming, they lost at home to the Hornets. Then a day or two goes by and you have the Detroit Pistons come to town, and we struggled some against them, but heroics from KD dropping 41. The Nets win. And then last night, the hated Milwaukee Bucks come back to town and they beat the Nets in an overtime game that the Nets should have won. It's time for accountability. The Nets had it right in front of them this week to control their destiny some, and they didn't. So now our fate is in our hands and the hands of other teams around us. We're going to talk about it today. Talking Nets, episode 160. Let's get it. Yes, sir. Welcome back to Talking Nets, episode 160. April 1st. Happy Friday to you. Friday vibes, Friday mood. Put last night's game in the rear view. I'm going to try and talk some of y'all off the ledge, but honestly, I don't know if I'm even able to do that. I just want to have some real talk today. I want us to be accountable on behalf of the Nets. And that's why I named the title of this episode, Nets Haven't Handled Business. They haven't. They haven't. And when I say Nets, I mean the entire organization, the coaches, and every player on the team that steps on that floor. It isn't just KD and Kyrie. The Nets should be a better team right now. They should be a better coach team. They should be better as far as execution. That game last night, they should have won. When you have a lead of 7 points with a couple minutes left and you're supposed to have elite closers, I know you've heard me say it. I know you've heard a ton of people say it. You have Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving on this team. The rest of the team should be able to close them out. But props to Giannis. Props to the defending champs, the MVP, and the refs. It's not an excuse to say that the Bucks are aided by the refs. If you've been listening to Talking Nets since, let's say, last June and the series that we had against the Bucks, I talked to you a lot about my conspiracy theory around Giannis and around the Bucks, and I'll quickly bring it up again. I'm not going to harp on it because it sounds weak. It sounds like we're making excuses, and I said it's time to be accountable. But a blind man could see the disparity in the calls. A blind man could see or hear the difference between how the Bucks are officiated and the style of play they're allowed to play with in this NBA. They're allowed to be extremely physical, whether that is a hard foul on Bruce Brown that was unintentional. Okay, good. We got Middleton ejected up out of there. Wesley Matthews running into KD's leg, literally making contact with him as he shot the three. And then the refs deciding that, oh, he gave him space to land. That wasn't actually a flagrant, this, that, and the other. It's nonsense. And Giannis setting a pick or setting a wall up. I don't know what he was trying to do, where he blocked Kyrie and you see Kyrie go flying. He takes the charge, and it's just like, why are you taking a charge out there on Kyrie, bro? You're 7 foot. What is going on? That's reckless. And that's what Kyrie referred to it last night as reckless. They're extremely physical, and they're allowed to be. Giannis has his way. He's called differently than any other player in the NBA. And Giannis is legit. Not taking anything away from him. Like I said, MVP. He hit shots when they needed shots. He kept fighting to keep his team in it. He hit his free throws. You could just give the guy props on the difference between him at the line last year and this year. Doesn't take him 13 seconds now. And he's a much better free throw shooter. Mr. Whammy got him a couple times last night, but he hit those clutch free throws to win the game for them. That's an MVP. He hit a step back three on Drummond to win the game for them. But I think the game would have been a little different if Kevin Durant got to the line before overtime. I just think that the Nets have been caught in some situations here where they just were unprepared. The Bruce Brown foul, call it what you want to call it. It just was like, Bruce, we didn't need that right there. They're going to see your arms extended and call that every time. And the turnovers that I see from the Nets, they're just too much. KD is a culprit. The whole team is. And this is a sign of a team trying to gel, trying to come together against, what you also hear me say a lot, a cohesive unit, a team that's got a ton of continuity. The Bucks have played in high leverage situations. They don't panic. Chris Middleton gets ejected, they rise. Giannis rises. Drew Holiday rises. And their role players like Bobby Portis, Wesley Matthews, those guys rise as well. Brook Lopez, Pat Connaughton, Grayson Allen, whatever. We had some guys rise like Seth Curry. We had some guys rise in moments, but more so we had guys fail in these moments. James Johnson is public enemy number one of Nets fans at this point. I haven't really killed him, but I understand people calling for Blake Griffin over him. I understand people not wanting to see James Johnson on the floor in these situations. I don't know. I don't know what y'all want me to tell you. I'm not going to make excuses. Jarrell says Seth Curry was terrible last night. Imagine if Seth wasn't hitting the threes that he was hitting. The game wouldn't have been close. Yeah, he missed some shots. Yeah, defensively, they all could have been better, but there's enough time. There's not enough time for excuses, right? It is what it is. The schedule is what it is. The record is what it is. It's time to be accountable. The Nets have to be better. In the post game last night, you heard KD say, we're not going to play perfect basketball. We're going to make basketball mistakes. It's not necessarily the team chemistry. These are veteran players. You add Goran Dragic, Andre Drummond, Seth Curry, and I know you guys hate James Johnson, but he's 35, been in the league for 12 years. These are veteran players. Bruce Brown, he gave us a lot offensively, and I think that's what he planned on doing, because he spoke about how much he thought about the series last year, Brook Lopez or whoever it was checking him, stopping him. So Bruce actually hit some shots, had some good floaters, layups, putbacks, whatever. And you need that, especially when they're double teaming KD like the way they are. And that's what we should expect to see, right? That's what we should expect to see. It seems like the formula is out. You got to double team KD and let somebody else beat you. There's no excuses now. Kyrie's back, right? Kyrie only took one shot in overtime. That's tough. That's tough to see as a Nets fan. And it's tough to live that nightmare over and over and over against the Bucks. KD takes the final shot for three and he misses it. And I don't want to hear the argument about Dragic was open for a layup. Offensively, Dragic did nothing yesterday. And there's just no shot that with 3 seconds, KD is going to get the ball all the way out there, rise up, throw a bounce pass to Dragic. What? So time can expire, and then KD looks like a sucker for not taking the last shot. It is what it is, man. Ace says, did you see Ja and Famous Los saying the league has an agenda? I did see Famous Los. And I've been saying this for a long time. Giannis is the international darling of the NBA. The NBA is a global game. They wish Luka could be Giannis, but Giannis is already Giannis, the Greek freak. They want him to win another MVP. They want him to win another title. Why? Because he stayed with the Bucks, a small market team. He signed the max with them instead of doing what the rest of the superstars in the league do. LeBron, KD, go to other teams. Westbrook, Harden. Giannis is everything the NBA wants. A international superstar that is homegrown and stayed with his small market NBA team in Wisconsin, won multiple MVPs, brought them a championship, and is poised to win another MVP potentially this year and go on another playoff run where maybe they'll meet the Nets, maybe they won't. Let's move on. The Nets handled business against the Pistons, but it wasn't in impressive fashion. It was just KD realizing he had to carry after the Hornets game where, honestly, there was too much energy in that building. I wasn't there. I was in Florida doing my Yankee stuff. Also went to go visit family. And I felt some type of way about not being at Kyrie's homecoming. But I was watching the game out on my phone, and my phone died right before like 9:30. So I physically didn't even get to see how it all went down. And I think that was necessary for me to step out of it and not live it while I was on vacation. You should take a break. You should always take vacations and step out of your profession and whatever you do. But I'm so deep in all of this. It was interesting. We lost that game. I'm glad I wasn't at that game. I had tickets to go to the game last night, and I made a decision at 5:30 that I wasn't going to go. So 2 tough losses against the Hornets on Kyrie's homecoming and an overtime loss against the hated Bucks. I was not in the arena, and I'm glad. Let's go to you guys' voicemails. I don't want to talk too much more until we play the voicemails and see what everybody's talking about. I asked for them to be under a minute. Only one of them was. Shout out to Big Fan Breezy for cooperating there. Let's see what you guys had to say on the voicemails. Hold on. I hate this. This thing literally will say connected, and then when you go to play it, it'll disconnect and go back to the phone and make me look unprepared, unprofessional, but it ain't on me. Working in tech, there will always be tech difficulties. Let's try this again.
Yo, Keith, it's literally 6:18 in the morning. I'm freaking pissed off right now. Bro, how are the refs giving Giannis all this freaking treatment, bro? I know he's a champ and whatever, champ at Jace with all the injuries that happened last year. But, bro, you got to explain this to me. My man got no bag. I know he's strong as heck. I know the dude could take it to the rack at will. But you can't put a hand on him. You can't play physical with him. He gets all these freaking free throws. And our main star doesn't get freaking his first free throw till 8.7 seconds left in overtime? This is ridiculous, bro. This is ridiculous. They play super physical. It's like they're out here headhunting out here for our guys. I don't know, man. You tell me, should we just get a little tougher, a little dirtier? I don't know, bro. I'm starting to feel like I don't even want to see Milwaukee because these dudes are just trying to take us out, bro. This is crazy, man. This is nuts. Giannis Antetokounmpo got no damn freaking bag. Horrible to watch. And the refs just give him like 25 free throws. It's unbelievable, bro. I can't, man. I can't right now. I'm totally heated. I hope you have a good day. Let's go talking Nets. Let's go Brooklyn, bro.
I mean, that's tough. That message came in at 6:18 a.m., and that's frustration. I stayed out of the Nets Twitter spaces last night because I knew it was going to be ugly. What I'll say is, yeah, they play a very physical brand of basketball that is allowed. And it's so obvious. But the Nets had that game. So it's hard to throw it on the refs when we were up like 108, 99 or something like that, like 108, 101, where after KD caught that lob from Kyrie, the alley-oop, most Nets fans thought we did it, we won, and we absolutely needed to win that game with the way the standings are. I'll say this, it's not going to change. So if you know that's how the game is, the Nets don't need to be more physical. You still got to, it's basketball. You still got to play the game. It's a finesse game. It's not supposed to be football. It's not supposed to be this rough. When I see a big ass dude like Giannis taking a charge against Kyrie and Kyrie saying you're just in the way, that's reckless. That's what it looks like. It's basketball. It's not supposed to be so many guys on the ground. There was another time where Giannis was on top of Kyrie, like covering him. And Kyrie gets up like, what's up with this guy? You know, we already talked about Wesley Matthews running into KD. That's not called. And, you know, the hard foul from Middleton kind of was because Bruce slowed up. I don't know what Bruce was thinking. In a playoff atmosphere like that, you better run and go dunk the ball. It isn't Showtime. It isn't Harlem Globetrotters. It isn't Showtime Lakers. You're not going to be able to just like get to the basket and windmill dunker. I don't know what he was going to do, but yeah, just it's tough. This is how the Bucks play, and the NBA is fine with it. We'll see what happens with the Nets. But to be honest with you, I thought I wanted that matchup against the Bucks at the 2, like getting out of the play-in and going to meet the Bucks at the 2. I don't want that. I can't watch this. Like I can't have that be the first round. I don't know. I can't watch their style of play and how they get calls and how they're officiated because it's so different than everyone else.
What's up, Keith? This is Brian from Brooklyn. Oh, man. I just want to say how disgusted I am every time James Johnson is in the game. There's 3 plays that happened against the Milwaukee Bucks that I want to discuss with this guy. Like, the one play where he's coming down with the 2-on-3 fast break in the middle of the lane. He doesn't even see Seth Curry on the open for a 3-point shot. He's just totally bad possession right there. The next one where the Nets are already back on defense. The guy decides to take a foul while they're in the bonus. And KD's looking at him like, are you stupid? I couldn't believe that. This guy, I don't know, he has like some incriminating photos against Steve Nash. It has to be. It just got to be. And Steve Nash refuses to play LaMarcus and Blake Griffin over him. I just don't get it. So, what was the third? But man, it's probably countless plays that I ain't bring up, but he's just trash. Yo, take care, man.
Yeah, there was a point in the game where like James Johnson was trying to create his own shot and it just wasn't working. And I'm just like, this is not the right shot selection. I think Dragic took some shots too. I'm like, why are these guys shooting the ball? I understand KD is getting double teamed. I understand, you know, there were points in the game where Kyrie wasn't, you know, in the first half, Kyrie wasn't doing anything. I think this was the second half. It's just discouraging because we should be coached better. And these are veterans, right? And everyone's saying, oh, James Johnson has discriminating photos of Steve Nash. No, this is what Steve Nash does. He trusts him. He's a veteran. Steve Nash is going to play him based off the fact that he's 35, been in the league 12 years. He can handle the ball some. He sets picks. And I guess they think he's got an offensive bag. It really is not there. And I understand people calling for Blake. Steve Nash was quoted as saying Blake Griffin is a much better 5 than he is a 4. So that's all you really need to hear, right? With Drummond and with Clax, I guess they're never going to put Blake Griffin next to one of them. So it's James Johnson. And you can expect to see James Johnson. It just is what it is. Like, I don't like it, but I guess they don't think Blake is a better solution at the 4. It's 5 or nothing, and most of the time it's nothing. It's unfortunate because with two of the best players in the world, we should have a better team than this. I actually wore my shirt. I got to make a new one. I have the shirt with like all of the players, from this is last year's team. I don't know if y'all can see it. But when you think about how different this team is now versus when this year started, obviously Harden and Paul Millsap and Blake in the beginning of the year was getting starts. Now he's straight getting DMPs. Like, a lot has changed. And I don't know if it's necessarily for the better. But these guys have about a week and a half to try and figure it out, man. This ain't figuring it out. A team like the Bucks, they know what they have, even without Middleton. I think last episode I did on Friday, somebody said, "Oh, the Bucks are going to be without Middleton," and I wasn't sure about that. But Middleton is fine. He played, he got ejected, and they stepped up and they beat us without one of their best guys. So there's no excuses about the refs. The Nets had the lead. They're not that great, like, down the stretch. There's too many mental errors, basketball mistakes, turnovers. The Bucks capitalized on their opportunities. The Nets did not. They haven't handled business. That's the title of this episode. It was right there in front of them. The Hornets game was right there. The Bucks game was right there. And that's 2 losses against other teams that are in the playoff field. Not ready to play against competition that's right around you. And the Hawks game is Saturday. So what do we expect? The Hawks are playing well. They're going to try and beat us down there in Atlanta. It's going to take a lot. Next voicemail.
Morning, Talking Nets. I think after last night's game, like, the frustration as a fan is like really, really starting to boil over. That was a game they should have won, that they could have won had they really taken care of the ball, boxing out, just more effort defensively. They probably would have never even gone to overtime had they done those little things. Like Richard Jefferson said, they probably would have won by 18, 20 points. But here we are, another loss. Lack of focus, attention to detail, you name it, they've done it. It seems like a point that's happened all year. What do you even say? Coaching absolutely played a role into it. Poor officiating. But after last night, I think I just need to step back because as a fan, like, when you start getting frustrated, you need to turn it off for a bit, and I think that's what's really going to just start happening. Whatever happens. The Rangers are playing well. The Mets are about to start. I have other teams I can focus on, without getting stressed out like the Nets do. So, we'll see what happens, but I won't be, giving them my full-time attention as I did last night, going forward. If that makes me a bad fan, so be it. But this is probably the most frustrating I've been, at least at this point this season, given the urgency that's required for every single game. And it just seems like they don't have it. So, it is what it is. Peace.
Temper your expectations. And I say that to say this. What we're seeing on the floor is not a championship team. Yes, we have Kevin Durant and Kyrie, which leads us to believe anything is possible, depending on where the seeding is. Let the chips fall where they may. We get in the tournament. We've got 2 of the best players in the world. We've got a tandem that no one else has. Scoring wise, we should be able to keep up with everyone, but it is a team game. When I think about last night's game, someone said something in the chat. Bricked free throws and airballed an open 3. Clash. Made me think about Andre Drummond at the line. Nick Claxton at the line. Like, Giannis hit his free throws. Other guys got fouled and couldn't knock down free throws. Simple as that. Why you're not, that's just not handling business. That's not taking advantage of your opportunities. It's that simple. The Nets had the game and they lost the game. And they lose again in the City Edition jerseys. They lose again at home. I'm over the City Edition look. I got to take that look off of any of the Talking Nets stuff. It was a cool look for the fans. It wasn't meant to be in this year. This is the most up and down, wild twists and turns, crazy year we've had as Nets fans. And we've had some crazy, wild twists and turns years. Like, watching the Nets lose that game in overtime last night. The Nets were 2-0 in overtime this season, and the Bucks were 0-2. I thought we had a good chance, and the Nets losing it. I'm like, never easy Nets. Same old Nets. Goes back to the Nets that couldn't close. We've got the top 2 closers now we've ever had, and it seems like same old Nets.
Yo, what up, Keith? It's Big Fan Breezy. Listen, Mr. Whammy did his best, but the refs, they was definitely not on our side. That disparity, when you look at the stat, is crazy. That being said, shout to you. And again, Mr. Whammy did what he could. He did his best. But again, the refs, I think there was one-sided when it came down to the free throw disparity with the Buck game. That being said, I like Bruce Brown, Nick Clax, their energy going into the playoffs. The play-in. So, going forward, I like, and we got to sit Dragic and sit Patty. Sit Dragic and Patty for Kessler and Cam. What we talking about? What's going on, man? Shout out to you. It's Talking Nets. It's Nets World. What's good?
Thanks for the call, Big Fan Breezy. Shout out to you for keeping it under a minute and getting a lot of words in. I just think with Kessler and Cam, they're not going to be in the playoff rotations. At this point, relying on them is like, for what? Cam, I think, got hurt in that Boston Celtics game, and he hasn't been the same. Kessler, I would like to see more of, but if he can't play, if he's not eligible to play in the playoffs, then, like, I don't know. We got to work with who we have at this point. The refs are ass, and you hear me say the refs are trash, and it's standard every night. The entire league goes through it, but when you're playing against the Bucks, there's like this special kind of trash where it's like only the Bucks are getting calls and the Nets can't get the call. Like, even Richard Jefferson was like, he's like, it is literally impossible for Kevin Durant to play an entire NBA game without getting fouled. They are double teaming him. So you can blame the refs, but all in all, the Nets had the game. You can blame the refs, but that's a game that the Nets should have won. They should have won the Hornets game. The Nets haven't handled business. Maybe they'll wake up at some point here and realize that they have to handle business. Maybe they'll wake up and realize that, like, your fate is in your own hands now. The team is whole. Kyrie is back. And that's a good part of the episode to talk about Ben Simmons. I've been telling y'all for weeks that, like, I'm out on Ben Simmons. Like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Ben Simmons has never suited up for the Nets. So if he suits up for the Nets, it ain't going to be this year, and it doesn't have to be this year. It's a cool thing. When we made the trade February 10th, and then we had the Sixers game March 10th, it was a cool thing to think about Ben Simmons, Ben 10, joining this team and us adding a defender like that. But the reality has set in now that this man is actually hurt. He can't play. And he's really more concerned with getting fits off, outfits, shades, looking fly on the sidelines. And that's okay, right? Like, Ben Simmons got out of Philly, and we were able to get Seth Curry and Andre Drummond out of that deal and 2 picks. We finessed the process. That's okay. We'll see what happens with Ben in the offseason, but as far as this team is currently constructed, I have no stock in Ben Simmons. I haven't for weeks. This is the team. Someone asked, who do I think returns? Ben Simmons, or who do I think returns first? Ben Simmons or Kyrie? And I said Kyrie without a doubt. I knew that the exemption, the mandate, that stuff was going to change. I didn't believe anything about Ben Simmons. One, the back issues with Ben Simmons going from, soreness as he was ramping up to a herniated disc, epidural, none of that bodes well for a guy to return. And I know Nash said that he has no problem throwing him into a playoff series. I think everybody would have a problem with that. He hasn't played. Imagine him playing at a high level with this team. No, we need cohesion. We need continuity. A loss like last night hurts, but it helps develop chemistry. It helps develop continuity. It helps these guys remember in tough games to come, in situations to come. Hey, I made a silly pass last time. I'll be better with the ball this time. Hey, I missed my free throws down the stretch. I'm going to work for 20 minutes after every practice leading up to the next games on my free throws. It's a saying, you got to lose to know how to win. And I feel like that's where the Nets are. We're in the play-in. I don't know if y'all realize, I put the banner down there. We're already in the playoffs. These are already playoff games. They matter. We're jockeying for position. We had it. And next we'll go through the other schedules of the teams around us in the standings. But I've been doing this with y'all for over a month, looking at the potential movements and if the Nets could play themselves out of the play-in. That's over with. That's done. That's not going to happen now. We're in the play-in no matter what. So now it's about making sure, and you know what? The Raptors made sure that we won't be going to Toronto. They've played themselves up to the 6th spot, and they most likely will pass the Bulls, potentially lock themselves into a 5. We'll see. And that'll be tricky for whoever draws them in the playoffs. An article came out about how, the Celtics, the 76ers, they don't have a fully vaccinated teams or something like that. So we'll learn about that soon. And also, with the Celtics, Robert Williams, I saw somebody in the chat say the Celtics aren't good. And I saw the response right after. It was like, the Celtics are good. The Celtics are good. If you've paid attention to how well they've played, even now, Robert Williams is out for the next 4 to 6 weeks. The Celtics are a pretty good team. I don't think anybody wants to draw them in the first round. They play defense, and they obviously have Tatum and Brown and Smart and Horford and, other guys. But back to where we are with the Nets. The Nets are stuck in the play-in. You don't want to be in that 9-10. You just went and lost. Let's pull up the standings. You went and lost to the Hornets, who were right next to you in the standings. Now we're knotted up. Like, what a joke. The Brooklyn Nets at 8, the Charlotte Hornets at 9, the Atlanta Hawks at 10, and we play Atlanta Saturday. Of course, we're knotted up. 9 games out of first. We're knotted up to 8, 9, 10. We do not want to drop into that 9-10 matchup. What we would ideally like is to be where we are in 8th, where we go to Cleveland and we face the Cavaliers. Kyrie is good to play there. Or we face the Cleveland Cavaliers in Brooklyn, which I don't like because we don't win at home. And I think there's some weird mojo in the air about Karis LeVert, Jared Allen, former Nets being over there in Cleveland, and a 1-game play-in scenario where the Cleveland Cavaliers could end our season. I know they're hurt right now. I know they're down without Evan Mobley, without Jared Allen, but anything can happen in a 1-game play-in. Now, I say that to say this. The Nets haven't handled business. It's time to control what we can control. We just lost 2 out of our last 3. We just lost 3 out of our last 5. We had a little win streak going after a 4-game losing streak. We had a 4-game win streak. You have to control what we can control. Let's look at our competitors' schedules, and then we'll look at the next few games for the Nets, because it's all coming down to this. And we'll know pretty soon exactly where the Nets stand in all of this, and where the teams next to us stand in all of this, and where we're headed and where we're going to be. So first, I'd like to pull up, and we'll get to chat questions in a second, but let's go through what we do almost every episode and look at our competitors, look at the people around us. Let's start with the Raptors, right? So back to the Eastern Conference standings. The Raptors are in 6th, but they have a nice little cushion. They have a 2.5 game lead over the Cleveland Cavaliers. So next, the Raptors today face the Magic. That's a win. Then they face the Heat at home in Toronto. That's most likely a win. They face Atlanta, Philly, Houston, and New York. I think the Toronto Raptors could win out. They play 4 of those games in a row at home. The only games on the road are at the Amway Center in Orlando and Madison Square Garden in New York. I think the Raptors win out, and I think the Raptors finish as the 5 seed. Now let's look at the standings again. The Chicago Bulls are currently the 5 seed. They're only a half game up on the Toronto Raptors. But there's a gap between Philadelphia, Boston, a couple games. So I think, the Bucks, I think, can climb too. I think the Heat are going to lose. I think the Bucks can end up the 1 seed. I'd like that. I'd like for us to end up in a series with Miami at the 2 seed. Let's look now at the play-in, the playoff picture. Right now, it would be Cleveland, Brooklyn in Cleveland. It would be Charlotte, Atlanta in Charlotte. That's not going to happen. It's not going to stay that way. There's going to be some movement. And then the winner of our game, Cleveland, Brooklyn, would meet Milwaukee as the 2 seed. I don't see Milwaukee staying as the 2 seed. They're trending up. I think they're going to finish as the 1 seed. Miami being the 1 seed would face, the winner of who comes out of the 8-9. Well, they'll face the loser. So it'd be like, let's say, I honestly think it would be Cleveland versus Brooklyn in Brooklyn. We would go on to face the 2 seed. Cleveland would play, I don't know, let's say Charlotte, and whoever wins that game would go on to face Milwaukee and the 1 seed. I think the Nets are destined to face Miami in the first round, a 2 versus 7, and we can beat them. Now, let's look at the Bulls' schedule. I think the Bulls are going to drop some. The Bulls have to face the Heat. Not sure who wins there. The Bulls have to face the Bucks. If you have watched the Bulls face the Bucks, they have nothing for them. The Bucks win that game. Then, in a back-to-back, right after getting beat up by the Bucks, the Celtics go to Chicago. The Celtics will beat the Bulls. And then trending up, fighting for their lives, the Charlotte Hornets will face the Bulls. They can beat the Bulls. And then the Timberwolves host the Bulls. And you just know, right? You just know the Timberwolves are a good team where the Bulls could lose 5 games. They could lose 4 or 5 games. They're going to drop in the standings. Right now, they're only a half game out of 6. There is a scenario here where they drop 4 games and they could potentially be in the play-in. If they lose 4 out of these 5 games, it could happen. DeRozan better go off for 50. Let's look at the Cavs schedule. The Cavs face the Knicks. That's potentially a win, but you never know. You never know. The Knicks, they battle and they just can't close. You never know. 76ers Cavaliers, trouble in paradise. Now the players are calling for Doc Rivers' head. Harden sucks, but we already knew that. Joel Embiid can't carry this team on his own. Not sure who wins between the 76ers and Cavaliers. The Cavs should beat the Magic. But then the last 2 games of their season, they have to face the Nets and the Bucks. Those should be losses. That should work in our favor. It really should. Let's look at the standings again. There's a scenario here where the Toronto Raptors play themselves all the way up to the 5. The Bulls could be the 6. I think the Nets can be the 7. The Cleveland Cavaliers, the 8. And then Charlotte, Atlanta, somewhere in the middle, I don't know, somewhere at the bottom, really, will be your 8-9 matchup. It'll probably be those 2 teams. Now, here's what the Nets have to do. The Nets have to face the Hawks tomorrow. They have to beat the Hawks. The Rockets, come to Brooklyn Tuesday, have to beat them, can't have a letdown. Then we go to Madison Square Garden next Wednesday, have to handle business, beat the Knicks again for the 7th time in a row. Then you've got the Cavaliers at home, have to win. Pacers at home, have to win. The Nets have to handle business. We're already in the playoffs. Win these next 5 games like it's a gentleman's sweep in the playoffs. Win the next 5 games and control your destiny. For real. It is time. Like, there's no other excuses left. It's time to handle business. The Nets need to win out. And if the Nets win out, they can host a play-in game as the 7th seed. I don't think they can play up to the 6. I haven't done the math on it, but that's where I'm at with all of this. It's time for accountability. We were up. I think our largest lead was 11 points last night. So you can blame the refs, but we already know this. We've been watching the Bucks play the Nets for a while, and they've dominated us. Not dominated us, but they have beat us. They won 3 out of 4 this year. They knocked us out last year. Giannis just continues to go on to, rack up records and points. He passed Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, this, that, and the other. The Nets' largest lead was 11 last night. The Bucks never led by more than 4. I talked about the turnovers. They turned the ball over too. We turned the ball over, but the Bucks turned the ball over as well. The disparity in the free throws is everything. They shot more than twice as many free throws as us, 34 points from the line, or 34 attempts from the line to our 16. And I think 8 of those came in overtime for us. So, and we didn't shoot well. We shot 68% from free throw. We shot better than them from 3-point, 48% from 3-point, but it did not matter. This is a team that is used to winning. This is a team that gets it done. In the overtime period, they scored 10 to our 9. That's why they're the champs. That's why they're the MVP. To the victor goes the spoils. Send in your chat questions. Other way, send your chat questions in. As we wrap this up, it is what it is. It's not a happy time as Nets fans, but taper your expectations some. We have a second-year head coach. We have a team that really is just getting together now in this last week healthy, and we don't even know how healthy they are. Dragic and Curry became available Saturday going into Sunday. They know they have to champ it out. They have to play. Season could be over soon. Drummond, he came back from illness. LaMarcus Aldridge, we still haven't seen. We don't know what's up with him. Ben Simmons, I don't expect to play for the Nets this season. So, just get that out of your head. It's about the guys we have. Expect to see more James Johnson, not Blake Griffin. It is what it is, folks. We got to be better. The team has to be better. They have to make better basketball decisions in crunch time. That loss last night is going to wear on them, but it could wear on them in a good way. Prepare you for playoff energy, prepare you for top teams. And, the silver lining in all of this is if that's the defending champs, if we lost to the defending champs in overtime by 1, a team that we could potentially face, a team that we know will stand in our way, the ball might bounce our way in the playoffs. Things can go differently, but the Nets have to be better prepared. Guys got to step up. Got to be better than that. Got to be better coached than that. And, yeah, that's all I've got for Talking Nets 160. We'll take your questions from the chat. I do want to send a shout out. I did get a review. Let's see if I can queue up this review. Once again, like I said, I was on vacation. I had some work to do with the Yankees and WFAN over the weekend. That was cool, but then I drove to visit some family. So I basically been off for about a week. And, it's good to be back, I guess. But at the same time, it's tough with the Nets not handling business. We'd be in a much different space right now if the Nets beat the Hornets and beat the Bucks like they should have, like they could have. It was right there for them. It really was. How come this isn't coming up now? All right, somebody wrote a good review, and reviews help me out. Like I said, this is a one-man operation. If I had a co-host or I had a team, Maybe they could have done an episode last week, but that's fine. We will get a team. We will get a co-host, hopefully paid for by a company that would like to host Talking Nets after this season. And when I'm looking for people to help me out with Talking Nets, actual businesses and companies and production and stuff, they need to see stuff like this. So, Julia, shout out to Julia for the support. Julia writes, favorite podcast, 5 stars. This is by far my favorite podcast. Great dude hosting it, and awesome guests from time to time. Simple and straight to the point. Thank you, Julia. I appreciate the support. Those go a long way. They really do. All right, we've played all the voicemails, and it's time to move on, folks. We got to put yesterday in the past. It's hard to do. I know that. It's a tough loss against the Bucks. It's a nightmare all over again. But now the focus has to shift to Atlanta, handling business and winning out these last 5 games. So, all right, let's go to the chat here and let's see what the Nets world is talking about. Fire Nash and the whole coaching staff. Whoa, 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 whoa. Maybe in the offseason. Maybe in the offseason. Maybe in the offseason. If we win the Atlanta game, the Milwaukee loss will be forgotten about. And it won't be forgotten about, but it'll definitely help us in the play-in standings. 5-game win streak to end the season. Yes, Brooklyn Nets 11 writes 5-game win streak. The Nets need it. Handle business. We haven't handled business. Now is the time. Control what you can control. Win the last 5 games to end the season. The teams that are playing the best basketball right now are the teams that are going to be playing the best basketball in the tournament. It is April. The play-in and the playoffs are about to start. There is no time left to not be accountable. The Nets have to get it together now. On defense, play above the 3-point line. Can we? Can we get out there? Can we do that? William Guzman says, unfortunately, this team just doesn't have enough, Keith. Doesn't look like a championship team right now. I'm not going to disagree with you. Did JJ threaten Steve Nash for playing time? No, I've told you guys. It's not about threats. It's not about JJ having naked pictures of Nash with another woman that's not his wife. No, those are all good jokes, but they're not anymore. It's simple to see. These are the rotations. They expect James Johnson to go in there and do what he does. Sometimes it goes a different way. It's not great for fans. It's not what we like to see, but he is a guy that they value as a veteran, a guy that can handle the ball, that can set some picks, and they think has an offensive bag. They think that he can score it. We've seen it, but not as much as we'd like, especially when Blake Griffin is sitting over there. And I know he's better at the 5, not the 4. Make them react to our game plan and stop adjusting to their game plan. Do we? I don't know. I don't know if we do that. I don't know sometimes if we do adjust. Yesterday was a disappointment. Be the more aggressive team. Let's see. What does Philly and Miami next games look like? Philly at the 2 seed would be ideal. I think we're going to see a lot of ducking. I think we're going to see a lot of resting. I think with the Sixers, talking about Doc Rivers and players are unhappy with Doc Rivers. They're just setting him up to get him up out of there. And I'll pull up the schedule for you guys so you can see at the top of the Eastern Conference what the schedules look like. And it sucks because my my prediction was that the Nets would be able to potentially play themselves out of the play-in, and I just don't see that happening now. They would need a lot of help from teams around them, and they would have to absolutely win the next 5 games. And it's much easier said than done is what I'll say. Keep sending your chat questions in before we wrap this thing up. I'm getting the schedules of the Heat and the Sixers so we can look at their potential for dropping. And I think the Miami Heat are definitely going to drop. They've lost a ton of games. They just haven't looked right. And you saw the beef between Jimmy Buckets and Spo. Trouble in paradise. At least we don't have that right now. The Nets are trying to figure it out, but there's no more beef. We got James Harden out of here. Seems like the guys all like each other. They're just not there yet as a team. They're just not there yet. So, all right, let's look at these schedules. Philly first. Philly, and let's take this chat question off. Philly will face the Hornets. The Hornets are trying to play up. Like, they could lose to them. Philly also faces the Cavaliers. They're jockeying for position. They're going to try and play tough, but they should be able to beat them. The Pacers twice. Philly will be fine. They'll beat them even if they rest Joel Embiid and James Harden. But the Raptors, they could lose to. The Pistons, they should beat. Honestly, I don't see the Sixers losing more than 2 of these games. And right now, when you look at the standings, if they were to lose 2 games, they still would probably hold at the 4. They have a game and a half lead over the Chicago Bulls, who are going to lose games. I think Miami's going to, or Philly's going to stay at the 4. Now let's look at Miami. I see Miami dropping. Miami's got to face the Bulls. They could lose to the Bulls. Miami's got to face the Raptors next. After the Bulls, they could lose to the Raptors. Miami has to face the Hornets right after that. They could lose to the Hornets. Miami has to face the Hawks. They could lose to the Hawks. Those are 4 playoff teams in a row that they have to face. And they have to face the Heat and the Raptors on a back-to-back. Then they face the Hornets at home and the Hawks at home. And then they got Miami or the Magic, who they should beat. But I see them losing. Let's say they have 5 games. I see them losing potentially 3 out of those 5 games. I think they lose to the Bulls potentially. The Bulls are fighting for their lives. The Raptors, the Hornets, or the Hawks. Those 4 out of those 4 playoff teams that they face, I think they could lose 2 to 3 of those games. It's going to come down to the wire. It's going to be an interesting week here coming up. Obviously, we're going into the weekend, but this week and into week is going to be very interesting in the Eastern Conference. So let's see. Last questions as we wrap up, as we approach an hour here. The fact that we talking about the play-in is a joke, Keith. No, it's not. Like, did you miss Kyrie didn't play the first 35 games of the season and then wasn't allowed to play at home until this past weekend? Did you miss that KD had a knee injury in January and then James Harden forced his way off this team? We lost a ton of games amongst the bullshit. The fact that we're talking about the play-in is based on a lot of those games that we lost. Didn't we have an 8-game losing streak? Like, I know a lot has changed, but like we dug ourselves into a deep hole. It's actually amazing that we have the play-in and that we are in contention, because if it was just the top 8 teams, we'd be worried right now about completely missing the playoffs. Like, let me remind y'all, we lost a ton of games. You saw Javon Carter on the floor last night. Javon Carter used to be a net. Let's see. We lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. To refresh my memory, we lost 11 games in a row. And if you add that stretch of 15, we lost 13 out of 15 between a month span of time, January 23rd to February 24th. Nobody forgot about that, right? Like, the Nets lost a ton of games. So, all right, let's see. Was Aldridge on the bench last night? I don't think so. And he's been out. His hip is interesting. I don't know. They can't win at home? No, they can't. The answer is no there. Do I know the reason? I don't know the reason. Danny says, so you think no Ben Simmons, no chance? Yeah, I've been saying that. He hasn't played a game all season. This isn't the first season of his career that he's missed. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Why would they try and force Ben Simmons into this group now? He's damaged goods, but he's still our goods. Like, we traded for him. Okay, last few. Raptors can get past the first round. What do you think? Absolutely. They definitely can. And I think I put the play-in up here. The way the plan looks. I think that I think that Toronto ends up the 5 seed, and they could potentially play against Philly, the 4 seed, and they could beat them. They could beat them. Stay tuned, folks. It's going to get interesting. I can't wait for the Eastern Conference playoffs. In the West, there's 2 teams that should come out of the West, the Suns or the Grizzlies. But in the East, depending on where these chips fall and where the standings and where the rankings shake out or whatever, it's going to be interesting. All right, last couple questions we got before we wrap here. Are you going to be on the Fan tonight? Yeah, 5-hour marathon. I'm back in the building, back on air. We'll talk about the Nets, but I do that here, so we'll probably talk more baseball on WFAN tonight. But call in. The Raptors can't get past. Yeah, I already saw that. I think the Bucks have a tough schedule though, but they're tough. They have their healthy big 3. They have a good head coach. They have good role players that you saw last night, and Bobby Portis and Wesley Matthews, and I think they'll be fine. That's my point, Keith. The team dug itself a deep hole because they punted those games back in January, February. They punted games, but like it is what it is. It is what it is. Like we punted games in this season. And this is a season where we had to deal with mandates and vaccines. We had to deal with injuries. We had to deal with COVID protocols. We relied on rookies at times. And still here we are with a chance to become as high as a 7 seed. And depending on who we draw, I'm crossing my fingers it's the Miami Heat. We could potentially get out of the first round and be in a second round where we're like, okay, now it looks a little different for the Nets. Holding out hope. Tapering my expectations, but holding out hope. I believe Nash is keeping Blake, Aldridge, and Simmons fresh for the playoffs. That's a good thought. I don't feel that way, but maybe. I think Ben, even 10 minutes a game in a series against the Bucks is huge. How are we talking about Ben playing? We haven't seen him even practice. Like, all we see is him on the bench in designer gear. Like, I understand some of y'all are holding out hope for Ben Simmons, but I'm just off that. We're missing the most. 50 million worth of salary cap is going to be tough. No team can compete with that much missing. All we need to do is make the playoffs. Facts. We're fighting to do that. We're going to make the play-in. Thank God for the play-in in this tumultuous season. Milwaukee already in the playoffs. Facts. They're already playing playoff level basketball. Judging from how they didn't, fold last night, they fought all the way. Oh, you're saying their schedule doesn't matter. They're already in the playoffs. Yeah, but they're fighting for that 1 seed, They're not stupid. They're fighting for that 1 seed so that they face, I don't know, like the Hornets or the Hawks in the first round. Like, they're fighting for that 1 seed. That's all we got, folks. Stop worrying about the past. Games that we punted. Our record is our record. It is what it is. I mean, we have to control what we control. We have to win these next 5 games on our schedule and put ourselves in the best position that we could be in. I understand Miami is a wild place and it was a wild time. It was tough to come from Miami and play a game on the second half of a back-to-back. But here we are. Your Brooklyn Nets are 40-37. They are 2 games behind the 7th seed Cleveland Cavaliers, but knotted up with the 9th and 10th seed. They have to win these games. They have to beat Atlanta on Saturday and win out the rest of the way. And if they do, there is a chance that they could rise to the 7th seed. And if they are able to rise to the 7th seed and host a game against the Cleveland Cavaliers, they should be able to win and be the 7th seed in the playoffs, potentially against the number 2 Miami team. The Bucks are a half game back from Miami. The Bucks might not lose another game, and they might claim that 1 seed, and we hope so. We want Miami. And if we got to meet the Bucks later in the playoffs, fine. But that's what we got to hope for as Nets fans. The Nets did not handle business. Now it's time to. No more excuses. That's all we've got. Thanks for rocking with me. Thanks for following Talking Nets. Thanks for listening to this podcast, watching this YouTube live stream. I appreciate y'all. Y'all don't even kind of understand how much I appreciate the Nets world, the Nets fans, this Nets community that we've built that they've tried to say doesn't exist. And you notice now, right? Stephen Bondi and some of these Knicks reporters, are they covering the Nets now? Oh, they're covering the Nets because the Knicks are eliminated from the playoffs. Their season is over. But the Nets have an interesting story for everyone to read and for everyone to hear. And that's a chance to get into the playoffs as the 7th seed after all of this. What a wild DVD this will be if the Nets somehow enter the playoffs and get a favorable route to the finals. It can happen. And that's what we hope for. That's what we need. That 7 seed, host the play-in, win the play-in, get the 7 seed. Hopefully the Miami Heat are number 2. We beat them in however many games. I don't know, Nets in 6. And then we see where the rest of the teams are. There's no team that should scare the Nets. The Bucks beat us last night. They have our number. I guess you could say they should scare us, but that's a game that the Nets had won. So if you're thinking about a series, a 7-game series, not one game, there's really no team that should scare the Nets in a 7-game series when you have KD, you have Kyrie, you have guys that can go off. We need the supporting cast to step up. We need the role players to step up. We have them now. This is a better team than we had last year going into the playoffs. We need Coach Nash to be ready. Coach your ass off. Get in those refs' ears. Challenge these calls. Scheme better. Go in at halftime and figure it out. And the coaching staff around Steve Nash. That's all I've got. Nets world. It is important that the Nets handle business the rest of the way out. We didn't this past week. Have to win these next 5 games and let the chips fall where they may. I expect the Brooklyn Nets to be hosting a play-in game against the Cleveland Cavaliers where they beat the Cavaliers. They go on into the playoffs as a 7 seed. The Heat drop to 2, and we face the Heat in a 7-game series. Going Miami to New York, back and forth, whatever it might be. Hopefully Aldridge is back. I have no hope for Ben Simmons being back. We roll with who we've got. Thanks for calling the voicemail. 201-870-0461 is the voicemail if you'd like to be heard on Talking Nets. Julia, thank you so much for leaving a review. Reviews go a long way. If you're on Apple, give us 5 stars and write a review. The Nets will play against the Hawks tomorrow. They'll play against the Rockets on Tuesday. And then I'll probably hit y'all with a pod before the Knicks game. Sometime before the Knicks game. We'll see. All right. That's all we've got. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube on your way out. Hit like, thumbs up. And, Talking Nets. Taper your expectations, but still have some faith. We're still in the season. It's still time. There's still time for us to make a run, and it's still all up in the air where we'll land or how it'll shake out. Let's go Nets. Let's go Nets. Let's go Nets. Brooklyn.